Seth Rogen, Penélope Cruz, Edward Norton, Olivia Wilde, who also directed. One apartment, one evening, one dinner that goes in directions I am absolutely not going to describe to you in advance because half the pleasure of this film is watching it go there. The Invite is the funniest, sharpest, most unexpectedly devastating film about marriage I have seen in years, and I did not see it coming. Here's the setup. Joe and Angela, Seth Rogen and Olivia Wilde, have been married for years. The spark is out, not dramatically, not with screaming and thrown plates, just gone, quietly, gradually, in the way it goes when two people have been in the same apartment for too long and stopped really seeing each other. Angela has invited their upstairs neighbours, Hawk and Pina, played by Edward Norton and Penelope Cruz, down for wine and charcuterie. She told Joe about this multiple times. He wasn't listening, so he finds out approximately 10 minutes before they arrive, already in a foul mood, already determined to confront them about the extremely loud sex that has been waking him up at all hours. The two situations are about to collide in a single evening in a single apartment, and everything will come out. The film is a remake of the 2020 Spanish film Sentimental by Cesc, which in its original cast included Amy Adams, Paul Rudd, and Tessa Thompson before it got stuck in development. The cast that actually made it is considerably more interesting. And Olivia Wilde, whose previous film Don't Worry Darling made more headlines for what's happened behind the camera than in front of it, has made exactly the kind of smart, contained, actor-driven film that proves she's a genuinely distinctive director when given the right material. Let me tell you what this film gets genuinely brilliantly right, because it gets so much right. Seth Rogen. I have watched Seth Rogen be funny for 20 years. I did not know he could do this. Joe is one of the most uncomfortably, precisely, almost painfully relatable male characters in recent comedy. A man who has not just lost the spark in his marriage but has, somewhere along the way, lost the spark in himself. He has zoned out of his job, his relationship, his own life, and he's dimly aware of this and does not know how to find his way back. Rogan plays this with a deadpan that slowly reveals something much more wounded underneath. Letterboxd audiences called it the most uncomfortably relatable performance of his life in a peak Mike Nichols comedy. They're completely right. This is his best work. Penelope Cruz as Pina is magnificent. She plays a woman who has built an entire philosophy of life around desire and liberation and radical honesty. A Socrates meets Hugh Hefner energy, and Cruz brings every ounce of her extraordinary natural charisma and comic timing to the role. There is a quality to Pina where you simultaneously understand exactly why she drives Joe insane and exactly why Angela is fascinated by her. She's doing both at once. Cruz is incapable of being uninteresting on screen, and here she is doing the best work of her comedic career. Edward Norton as Hawk is the quieter of the two guests, more observer than instigator, a man with his own complications that surface slowly. Norton plays the intellectual confidence of someone who has thought carefully about how to live in a way that feels genuine rather than pretentious. When the dynamics shift in the second half and Hawk's composure cracks, Norton makes it feel earned rather than mechanical. And Wilde herself as Angela is the film's great surprise. She has never been better. The perfectionist energy, the desperate need for the evening to go well, the slow realization that what she actually needs is something completely different from what she thought. RogerEbert.com called it a minor miracle that she turned a modern comedy of manners into something this felt. The second half of the film, once the wine and the truth are both flowing freely, is the best work she's done as both director and actor. The final shot especially is perfect. Now here's where I have to be straight with you. Because the film isn't quite as confident all the way through as its best moments suggest. The first act is a problem. The film starts out trying way too hard to impress you, and it takes roughly 30 minutes before it settles into its natural groove. Wilde, the director, early on, is squishing characters into the edges of the frame, using mirrors to create split-screen imagery that looks striking but says nothing, staging comedy scenes with a horror movie score underneath them that amplifies rather than shades the humor. The score by Devonté Hynes, Blood Orange, is genuinely talented and genuinely misapplied in places. There is one tense dialogue scene scored with strings jabbing and screeching like a Hitchcock thriller that would be funny if it weren't slightly exhausting. Once the film calms down, Wilde steps back as director and lets the performances carry the story. That's when the film becomes extraordinary. Getting there takes patience. The film dangles a more audacious outcome and then retreats to emotional safety. There are ideas in the second half about the nature of desire, about what marriages actually need rather than what they perform, about the gap between how people live and how they present their lives. And the film gestures at these ideas with real intelligence but doesn't follow them all the way to where they lead. It could have been a little wilder. That is both a pun and a genuine criticism. The potential of the material slightly exceeds what the finished film commits to. Here's where I land. The Invite is the film Olivia Wilde has been building toward. Not Booksmart, though Booksmart was a delight. Not Don't Worry Darling, though Don't Worry Darling had real ambitions. This, a confined, four-person, one-evening chamber piece that trusts its cast completely, understands its subject, the specific texture of a marriage that has quietly come undone, with genuine intelligence, and delivers both the funniest comedy and the most quietly devastating emotional gut punch I've seen in a single film this summer. The first act overreach is real. The finale's slight retreat from its most audacious ideas is real. These are honest criticisms of a film that is still in its best hour among the best comedies A24 has released. Seth Rogen's best performance, Penélope Cruz having the time of her life, Edward Norton slinging his fastball, and Olivia Wilde finally, completely finding her voice as a filmmaker. I am giving The Invite a 7.5 out of 10. Do not take a first date. Take someone you've been with long enough that some of it makes you laugh and some of it makes you wince. That's exactly the audience this film is made for. Like the video if this helped, subscribe for weekly reviews, and tell me in the comments, have you ever been to a dinner party that went completely off the rails? See you next time.